there was a show in New York City called The $1 Million Movie that was on Channel 9, the public station in New York City. I mean, the television station in New York. And it was, the $1 Million Movie was owned the library of RKO Pictures. And what they would do is they would show a film every day, all day, 7 days a week. And then they would show another film every day, all day, 7 days a week. And the two films that stood out to me when I was a young man was Marion Cooper's King Kong, because it was an RKO picture, and Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. When Welles' character, Charles Foster Kane dies, and the ball falls off the thing and crashes, and before it dies, he slips, cuts to his lips, Rosebud. I grew up in East Harlem. Father was a janitor. My mother was a homemaker. And my whole goal in terms of like a professional career as I was growing up was to figure out how to, like a lot of young men of color, how to get out of the ghetto and get below 96th Street. So I had this goal that I was going to somehow become a businessman. So when I went to college, which was City College, Baruch College, I majored in business. But, unconsciously I could see that I wasn't happy. I put my first sequence that I built into the editing machine, which was about 5 shots. And I just somehow, I didn't know why, but I didn't like the order of the shots. I didn't like that shot 1 was shot 1. I wanted it to be shot 3. So I took the shots out of the moviola, put them on the splicer, and moved shot 1 to shot 3. And shot 2 became shot 1. I spliced it back together and I put it back in the moviola and I ran it, screened it, and it was like, voila. Somewhere inside me, I wanted to be an editor. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But I became this very quiet, low-key apprentice whose duties every day was to come up to the editing room with the rest of the crew. When they went to the location, when I went to the editing room, my duties were to sweep the floor, label the boxes with grease pencil, with magic markers, and what we call reconstituting the trims, which was taking all the trims, it was all film, taking them out of a barrel and splicing them all back together. That was my job. And that's what I did day after day, week after week, month after month. Those 5 years between 25 and 30 was a constant, do I trust myself? Oh my God, can I do it? Oh my God, they're gonna hate this when I get fired? Oh, was it gonna work? Oh, constant second guessing, constant, And, that fear is a big piece of that. It's really a big piece of that, Every job I would take between 25 and 30, I would always walk in the editing room the first day and I would get this big lump in my stomach. And sometimes, I'd get a job and the director would give me some suggestions and I would try some structural things. They'd come in after 3 or 4 weeks and, oh, Sam, that's terrible. It doesn't work. That's not what I was talking about at all. You completely missed what I was I'm trying to put the film across. And I would get, despondent, oh my God, I'm no good, After a certain while, when you really gain experience, you learn that there's no such thing as really getting it right the first time. It's impossible. If you're really honest with yourself as an editor, you got to edit from how you feel it. Now you, as an editor, part of your responsibility is to listen to the input from the director and the producer in terms of their vision of the film. And some directors and producers are more articulate than others. But you try to pay very close attention as the editor to what they're trying to put across in terms of vision, in terms of structure. But you still, at the end of the day, you have to process it through your lens, because unless you're a robot, you're never going to do exactly what somebody says or feels. You just can't. I collaborated with St. Clair Bourne on 4 or 5 films. I was really awed by Saint when I first met him because I knew his reputation as a documentary filmmaker. He was a tall guy, 6'5", felt imposing, had an imposing presence. So initially I was a little sort of shy around him. But as we worked on this film and then we worked on the next 3 or 4 films together, we developed a real relationship. So that when we went into an editing room, there's a real synergy between us, the real connection. On the other hand, I started collaborating with Spike in '88 on Mo Better Blues, and then Jungle Fever and Clockers and Four Little Girls, Bamboozle, you know, Girl 6. But I always say to people, in 20 years of working with Spike, we're not friends. But on that particular relationship, the collaboration is kind of a, you know, unspoken one, where because, and I've said this publicly and I'll say this again, I still think Spike is one of the greatest filmmakers, you know, in the world, you know, even when he makes bad films, because he has a point of view and he has a vision. And I don't always agree with him, but I respect that. And part of that respect, you know, has enabled me to feel like I can always be on his wavelength when it comes to working with him on a film. And that's what it is about collaborating with a director, negotiating the relationship, you know, understanding who this person is and taking that into account when you're dealing with them and dealing with their material. I rarely bring out the legendary Sam Pollard. My attitude is that listen, I know, listen, I'm aware of any, I'm more aware than anybody of my accomplishments, you know. And I'm going to say this, I'll never say this to anybody else. And I'm the first to go on IMDb to see what my body of work is and see if there's any new reviews about me. I'm the first to do it. I don't tell people that, but I do it all the time. I mean, part of the thing is, you're not supposed to let this shit go to your head. You're supposed to, you're supposed to, you know what somebody said about me a few weeks ago? It was the Full Frame Documentary Film Festival. This other filmmaker, who's really a legendary filmmaker named Bill Jersey, did a wonderful film called Time for Burning. He said, Sam, you know what's good about you? I said, what, Bill? He says, you're an enabler. That means more to me than this notion of being legendary. The idea that in a 35-year career, that I can support the vision of other filmmakers, to enable them to make their films, to get their films done, to get their stories told. And that, to me, is the greatest pleasure that I can have. You know, that means more to me than all my credits. The fact that when I leave this place, there can be a bunch of filmmakers who came behind me and said, man, if it wasn't for Sam's support, I couldn't have got my film done. That means a lot to me. That's what I love to do. Help people find their vision. Because it really goes back to that moment in that room when that light bulb came on in my head. If there hadn't been that organization at Channel 13 that, you know, embraced us young fledglings, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't be sitting here today. And that's, you can't forget that. You can't forget that.